Hey, you guys can hear me, right? Audio is good for the mic. Want to make sure we're okay. Good. All right. So today, in this lovely stream of mine, we're gonna be talking about Red Hood. I've been playing him basically since release, and only him. I've been really taking quite kind to the character. Fits my playstyle really well. And he's got some weaknesses, he's got some strengths. I'm gonna talk about that. We do have a voice. Anyway, so first off, the biggest thing about him that's pretty noticeable is the fact that his buttons are actually just godlike. He's got a 13 frame low, which advances pretty far. It's great for whiff punishing. The full string it goes into is safe on block, so is the normal string by itself. But it doesn't really get you that much mid-screen. He's probably better than the Flash. He's at least as good. It's kind of early to decide how good he is. I think has a lot of potential. But as I was saying, he's got 9 frame highs everywhere. He's got forward 2, he's got back 1. Forward 2, 3 is hit confirmable, ends in an overhead. You can confirm it. Pretty good. He has a lot of good buttons. Like, this is a 9 frame mid. And this is a 10 frame mid. It leads into plus frames with a little bit of a gap, but you know. So basically, as you can see right away, he's got a really good tool set as far as buttons go. And then after that, the next big thing that you're probably going to notice when you first start fighting a Red Hood is that his mobility is really solid. He's got this. It's death on whiff, but it covers a lot of space for him. It's like 60-something frames of recovery. I'm still learning all the frame data. Like, yeah, it's 62 frames of recovery. So if you are able to whiff punish him there, you have like forever to do it. He has his forward tackle, which covers a lot of space. Both of these can be meter burned to have him shoot. The back one does 6 hits, so it breaks armor, and the forward one does 2 hits, so that also breaks armor. You can also meter burn this on block, or on hit. Yeah, really is. But he can meter burn it on block or on hit, either before he comes into contact with you by shooting the projectile, or he can do this when it hits and make it so that it shoots overhead, does a decent amount of chip per bar. It also makes it safe. It's like -9 on block, so some characters can punish it, but for the most part, considering how far back he pushes himself, like, it's very hard to punish it. So not only that, but his jump arc is not exactly floaty, but he like minimizes his hitbox when he's in the air, so it's actually a really good jump. He also has backdash that covers a lot of space. His forward dash recovers pretty fast, and it covers a good amount of space. So he has a lot of good mobility when it comes to, you know, just moving on the screen, wanting to get in. Yeah, he's got a lot of mobility. After that, the next thing that you would want to look at is his projectiles. Hey, Phil Pop. His projectiles are relatively good. They have okay recovery. A projectile actually has 8 years of recovery. But he also has the meter burn ones that do decent shit. Meter burn up stars have no recovery. This is a 10 frame fireball. It's a high. It's good at interrupting some zoning patterns, which is really nice. He also has landmines, which against characters with no projectiles is a nightmare, because they either have to eat that, which jails into all of his projectiles, or they jump it, and then you can just check them with an upstar. So against characters that can't really contest you at full screen, he gives them a really hard time, because these mines are just a wall, and then he has 10 frame fireball. He can really change up his pattern to be really, really unpredictable. However, against characters with projectiles, he can suffer a little more, such as Deadshot or sometimes Fate. However, he does have options against that. For example, he can stop his jump arc by doing this. Now, that's extremely unsafe, even if you meter burn it. No matter how instant you do. No matter how instant you do it, he's, like, extremely unsafe, and the recovery is just complete garbage. Like, you have that long to punish him, as long as you're not getting hit by this. But it is a good way to interrupt, like I said again, like with the trade shot, it's a good way to interrupt their zoning. The other thing that we should probably get into, actually, before we get into anything else, is his trait. His trait is going ballistic. He takes out his tasers. Hey, Flutter. Takes out his tasers. And he has a lot of follow-ups after this. You can either cancel it. I haven't really found too much of a use with this, except for, like, some mind games. But even then, like, it takes a while to recover. So I rarely use it unless I'm, like, mid-screen. And I'm trying to bait them to do something so I can check them with a shot. He's got the trait shot, which is 4-2. It's a 10-frame fireball. It's high. It has a good amount of, like, a decent amount of recovery. And, however, it does push him back a little bit, much like Batman's Batarangs. So it does build distance between you and the opponent if you do it. The other thing about the trait is kind of the meat and potatoes of it. Where, hey, Echo, how's it going? He's got multiple options afterwards. He can do 3-3-2, which is the start of it all. This is punishable, this is -9, and this is punishable on block. So really what you're going to be seeing Red Hood players do is you're going to be seeing them blistering into that if they don't want to complete it, so that they can stay relatively safe or play some mind games. But if they want to go for the mix, what they do is they'll finish it with either the overhead. It has a lot of pushback, so some characters actually just can't punish it because of their stubby-ass buttons. But characters like Dr. Fate can definitely punish it, because he has 9-frame forward too. So you basically just need to find your button that you can punish with, or your reversal that you can punish with, what have you. He also has the grab, which he can either just keep as a grab and shoot you. It puts you at a decent range, the kind of the range that Red Hood wants you at, depending on the matchup. Or he can meter burn it, crap, and be absurdly plus. Like that jails into back threes and forward threes. It also gets you a free jump in, which is really nice. It's one of his better kind of dirty tools that he has. So, yeah. The last option is the Love, which is really unsafe, and every character in the game can punish that. Oh, also, the grab is a high, so if we put him on Duck... See, you can neutral duck it and punish it. So, you're going to be wanting to block low most of the time against Red Hood, but keep in mind he does have the overhead that will tag you if you're trying to either duck the grab or block the low. But even then, the risk reward isn't that much in his favor, because granted, you're still going to get tagged by the overhead, and it's going to kind of suck. But he's only +2 on hit, so he doesn't get a lot off of that knockdown when he actually tags you with it. The last option that you have is that. It's -1 on block, so he actually does get a little bit to play around with. Like if you don't check him with a poke, he's going to be able to down one check because he has this 6-frame down one. So he can build a lot of mind games and pressure with that -1 on block. You can also like walk back a little bit with punish you. So yeah, his trait is relatively simple, but has a lot of mind games involved with it when you're actually in a match. But you have to, if you're going to be fighting this character, you have to know when to punish him. Like, you need to know that that is -13, and you need to be pressing buttons, punishing him for being at -13. Well, then buy it, damn it. The other thing is he has a lot of strings that will have a gap if he does trait into them, but he can stagger. For example, 2-2 is the biggest example of this. 2-2 trait you can down one, like, every character in the game can check him with a down one at least. So what the Red Hood player has to do is enforce 2-2-3. I got you, man, I got you. But he can enforce 2-2-3, which doesn't have a gap, if I remember correctly. Watch, I'm gonna get blown up now, because it probably has a gap. Yeah, it has a gap. Okay, but it's not a gap that you can down one out of, right? So granted, you can go for a backdash every time, right? Anyway, you can go for a backdash every time, which is a good answer to it, but if you are a character that doesn't want to be backdashing against him because he wants to build the space against you, then that's kind of a problem. Every character has their different matchup-specific stuff that they can do with Red Hood, obviously. But, yeah, 2-2 is the biggest example. Don't let Red Hood players do 2-2 trait. Check them every time. It's a pretty easy thing. But they can stagger 2-2-2, because it has relatively good frame data. He also has... The strings that you're basically going to be seeing Red Hood players do into trait most of the time is 1-1, because that jails. That is, like, there is no gap there whatsoever. And if anyone tells you there's a gap when they're crouching, there isn't. I don't know where that came from. Like, he's ducking, right? First full attack is his super. Safe. There's no gap, no matter what. So 1-1 trait has no gap whatsoever. Don't press the button because you're trying to check him. Other things include back to the ones that you're going to be seeing a lot are back 2 trait, 3-2 trait. You're going to see 2-2 trait a lot because people are still getting used to the idea that they shouldn't be doing that. Where's a good red? So that's at like the start of the round meta. Yes, he is absolutely my new main. But the start of the round meta for Red Hood is actually kind of interesting because of the size of his buttons. So, like with Superman, you can do forward 2, which is basically most of the time what you're going to be doing either a jump or a forward dash. And with Red Hood, he can basically walk back a little bit. If you try to do an advancing button, he's going to punish you with either back 2, back 1, forward 2. You can do instant air shots against some characters. Some people just don't expect that. You can just go for a forward 2 or a back 2 or a back 1. You can go for, like, you can do a downward check. You can just backdash and build space. So there's a lot of different things that Red Hood can do at the start of the match that, you know, people have to watch out for. Keep in mind that this has so much recovery that you really only want to be, like, unless you are absolutely sure this is not going to whiff, you want to be just open, like, if you're going to open with a forward 2, you just want to open with a forward 2. You don't really want to open with forward 2-3 because if they jump, you are at so much disadvantage. It's very easy for a large majority of the cast to punish you. But anyway, back 2 strings into trait. You're basically going to be seeing back 2, forward 2-3, 2-2, and 3-2. You have to lab your options against the gaps that these have. The only things that don't have gaps are 1-1. So yeah, just play around and practice against him with your character, and you should be able to find your answer. Now that we're done with the whole, basically like his basic tool set of he has, you know, good buttons, he's got decent zoning, you know, he's got good staggers with trait and mind games and such. The other thing with Red Hood is this low mine is a low, and he has a plethora of overheads, and I mean so many. He only has one overhead starter, which is the forward 3, but like he has his jump 3, which I guess is technically a starter. You know, he can really set up some very tricky blocks for your opponent. For example, if you know, just do a normal D&D, get the hard knockdown. You know, that, like, you can avoid a lot of his stuff mid-screen by, like, doing movement, but then, you know, the Red Hood player can make a read, you know, stuff your wake up, block them, etc. When it really gets kind of crazy is in the corner. Because one, that back 2-3 string that doesn't launch mid-screen, it is a full combo every time. Into some dirty stuff. Like, after 3-2-3, he gets a free jump in 3. Which you probably didn't even see that crossed up, but it did. Raw 3-2-3, neutral jump. Sometimes crosses up, sometimes doesn't. It's so ambiguous you don't even know. But he has a lot of setups in the corner, along with his stagger pressure being surprisingly smothering in the corner. Like, it's like Crystalline Tremor from MKX, but without flex and without the plus frames, which granted sounds really underwhelming, but he can really stagger you and make you scared to press buttons in the corner because he has such like oppressive mids up close. Because he has the 9-frame mid, the 10-frame mid, the down 1. He can walk back and make you afraid to press anything with back 2. So even outside of his hard to blockables and the plus frames that he gets from low mines and such, he has a lot of really good stagger pressure that can make your opponent really just angry at this character. But as far as in the corner, outside of the stagger pressure, he's got... Basically, you're going to end in this, and then you can either get a free jump in 3, or... Well, the thing is, right, a lot of people, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about how, and I think I actually talked about this with you, Raccoon, how he looks kind of mediocre. And, you know, he doesn't really, he seems to have, like, a lot of stuff, but people seem to think it's not enough. But what I see when I look at this character is someone who can play the neutral really well against a lot of characters in general. Like, a lot of the top tier, he can either compete with or give a hard time to. Like, Black Adam, he can compete with his buttons relatively well. You know, Superman is kind of a rough matchup, but he does have answers for... Oh! Speaking of Superman, there's one thing I forgot to mention, and that's his parry. It's 8 frames. It has a metric ass ton of recovery. He has a low version, which has even more recovery. Which is only really good in my experience as a reversal, because it'll come out in 7 frames. It keeps a lot of pressure characters in check, such as Superman, because he just wants to forward 2 you to death all day. This is, in fact, the great and mighty Crazy Fingers. Welcome to the stream. So yeah, but back to what I see in the character. I see a character that can really play the kind of game plan that you want to be playing in Injustice. You want to be controlling that space. You want to be doing something that's building you meter constantly, because if you're a character that can't build meter constantly, you need to have some damn good stuff to back it up. Like, for example, like Scarecrow, when he has meter, kind of makes you scared. Yeah, that's actually a good comparison. I didn't think of that. Nice. But, you know, like, Scarecrow has stuff that he can do when he gets in to really make you scared. Cheetah is another character that when she gets in, if she has meter, like, she doesn't need to build a ton of meter to make you scared. It's characters like that, who, if they can't build meter full screen really effectively, like Swamp Thing can't really build that much meter full screen effectively and be feeling good about it. And when he gets in, you know, he does have the good buttons, but he takes forever to get in. So, Red Hood really is playing the kind of game that you're wanting to be playing in Injustice 2, with his solid projectiles and his good meter build. You know, he doesn't do a lot of damage. He has some kind of weird frames, but his mobility and his ability to just, you know, kind of smother the opponent. I feel like if the parry was cancelable, it would be a bit much. But, who knows. But yeah, he basically is just playing the game that you want to be playing in Injustice, which I'm a fan of. And back to his corner pressure and such. He's got the staggers, you know, but he also has him being able to... God, I hate it. You know what, we're just gonna... There. Okay. He has a small hitbox, so like some of the combos kind of whiff. but basically you're gonna want to get that hard knockdown. And like that is a cross-up, and you didn't even know that. So that's going to be something that, you know, people are going to get used to. They're going to see that I jump forward, and they're going to be able to block the cross-up. But right now, go nuts with it, because no one's blocking it. Like, he just gets a free jump in there. He gets a free mine, and you can really build respect with that mine. So, like, let's say you hit him, and you place that mine. You can create some really crazy blocking situations for your opponent, like with forward 2-3. You can block. So back on 3, I actually haven't been using it a lot, simply because, you know, I'm not really sure how I want to be using it. So like, as you can see, this kind of whiffs. It being +3 makes it so that if they do anything but down 1, you can check them with that or that. But outside of the corner, he doesn't get really any mid checks with it. Like if you're in the corner after back 1-3, you can check them with a standing 3. You can check them with a down 1. I believe it doesn't whiff. Okay, maybe it does. But you can check them with a standing 3, like a 7-frame mid. You're checking them with. You know, you can walk back a little bit with punish with back 2. And you know, like I was watching Red Hot Sundays, and Kondar did like back 3, back 1-2. I mean, back 1-3, back 1-3, back 1-3. Like he did it like 3 times in a row, which it feels kind of like, I don't know. It's really weird. Here's the thing though: if they go for an advancing button, this will check them because they'll run into the hitbox. So you have to keep that in mind when you go for a down 1 check. You want to be thinking. Well, it works mid-screen, but the problem is if they are actually respecting your plus frames, they can just whiff punish your down 1. So it's one of those things where you have to build the respect first. They'll also like walk into standing 2s or standing 3s. So it's kind of a weird one. 3-2-3 also kind of has that thing. However, your standing 2 does reach. I believe your standing 3 will also reach. Yeah. So, you know, his button, like his plus frames, as far as outside of the landmine, is something that you really want to find your own groove with. I don't really like telling people what to do with their plus frames, especially on a character that has so much push block on his. So you really have to find your own kind of deal. Would trait here's the thing with frame trapping with trait. It would hit, but the thing is, you have to take into account that it probably wouldn't frame trap. Because, like, yeah, trait starts in 1 frame, but this is an 11-frame mid, and this is +3. So, you know, that's what he's like, it becomes a 9-frame mid. Which isn't bad, but you're still gonna get stuffed by down 1s. You know? It'll stuff anything but a down 1, which is nice. So trait will reach, and that's something that you can play with again. But what am I missing? Oh yeah, back to the corner. He has... Yeah, you can probably back that shit as well. So it's like just a lot of mind games. You also have forward 3 that you can do, and if you think they're gonna wake up, you can do a meter burn forward 3. If you delay it slightly, you know, it'll actually pop up an effective amount. And it's a relatively good thing to use in the corner. But basically in the corner with Red Hood, you're going to be having to watch out for him, you know, just walking back and throwing out his back 2 or his back 1 or his forward 2. And his staggers. Like, he can really mess you up in the corner if he has the right reads on you. With his staggers and such. Because they're really effective staggers. Like, the frame data on them isn't terrible. Like, standing 2 is only -3. And if you're expecting this every time, you know, standing 3 down 1, I mean standing 2 down 1, and like it recovers really fast. He has a lot of really fast recovery things. Like 2-2 recovers really fast, 3-2 recovers relatively fast, standing 3 is a little less fast recovering. Back 2 only has like 20 frames of recovery, which on an advancing normal like that is kind of nuts. Like, he has a lot of really good, like I said before, he has a lot of really good buttons. So, he's going to be staggering you. Yeah, you can do two. You can do like two, 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 two. Check with a standing three, down one. Like you, what I love about stagger game is that you basically can do whatever you want with those quote unquote plus frames that you're getting from the opponent respecting the full string. So you just have so much to play with, and it encourages a lot of creativity, and it's just a ton of fun, and I love it. That's why I play Burgerface, because he had that kind of game plan. He actually had almost identically the same string with 2-2. Like, same input and everything. Just, this isn't +2 on block, and is a mid. But, yeah, that's basically, you know, the long and the short of it. As far as how good I think he is right now, because, you know, that's the last bit I gotta talk about. He seems really strong. Seems pretty strong, I should say. Not a lot of stuff has been figured out yet. He's still, like, he came out, like, what, on the 16th? No, not on the 16th. He came out on the 5th for me with the Ultimate Pack. So it's been about a week or so. He's been out and about for about, like, a week. So he's not, you know, he's still relatively new. So a lot of people are still figuring out, you know, answers to his stuff. But I think he has a ton of potential. And if you want to be playing that, you know, that mid-range game with, you know, the landmines and the projectiles and whatnot and the good buttons, while also having a an actually really good up-close game, this is the character for you, honestly. Yeah, and remember, he has that really good mobility. So against some characters that want to zone you out, he can actually check them from full screen with the tools that he has. For example, we can set Fate to crap. Block. You can set him to do that. So you can check him with that. Okay. You know, you can check him with that. That's not exactly a good trade. But checking them with that is very useful because it'll go under the projectile. You can do the same thing with, like, dead shots, meter burn rifle shots. He has to hold the dive. Which, you know, if you start getting them to respect the dive from full screen, you can... It's really strong. It's 8 frames. Like, this is 8 frames. Having an 8-frame advancing mid that is a free get, like, is a get in on a lot of zoners is really good. He gets, like, it's kind of just like a free meter burn roll without the invincibility on it, but you get what I mean. So, you know, he has decent counter zoning, he's got decent zoning, he's got good buttons. He doesn't have great damage, but he has a lot of really good setups involving, like, you know, V-stand. There's some unblockables that, like, unblockable interactables that launch that he can, you know, sort of guarantee off of, more badass meter burn roll, but he can guarantee off of that restand. For example, something you can do over here is, like, you know, he can do the throw, which is a good reset. He has other stages where he can do a lot of just kind of nasty stuff to you involving resets. Superman. I'll show you the one that's, like, 100% I know is unavoidable. And that is the fortune teller on Joker's Playground. So he's got, you see that fortune teller over there? He's all bright and shit. So you get this off. Crap. But you can see where that's going. He gets this unblockable. And then I drop it because I'm bad. But, you know, and then, like, that's a good amount of damage. And that wasn't even after a combo. Like, if he, you know, is a little further back. and if I wasn't fast. So, sometimes you get pushed far back. You get what I mean, though. Other unblockable interactables aren't 100% guaranteed, such as these barrels. You can jump and backdash away from. I mean, you can jump them, but you have to keep in mind that you are so plus after this. Like, everything jails after that, so they are respecting your plus frames like they should, and that makes getting this unblockable not exactly out of the realm of possibility, and it leads to a lot of just really uncomfortable reset options for your opponent. So overall, what? I was unblockable again. That would be R1. Oh, you mean for the jump? You do down and R1. So, like, when you're jumping off of an interactable, if you want to detonate it with the unblockable, you hold down in R1, and it'll make it explode. So, overall, he seems like he has, like I said, like a lot of potential. No problem. He has a lot of potential with all of the tools that he's been given, and I think he has the ability to be able to compete. However, I don't think he's absurd. He seems relatively balanced. He's kind of a jack-of-all-trades kind of character. Master of a couple. Like, his buttons are so good, man. He has some really, really solid buttons. But, yeah. Overall, that's basically how I feel about that. I've been having a blast with him. If anyone has any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer. Hey, monkey. So, green arrow zoning, I've played a couple green arrows with him, and it feels really similar to why Green Arrow beats Batman, and that's, he doesn't care about this. He doesn't care about this. He doesn't care about this. He can sit full screen and do his thing for the entire time. So he needs to get in on him, and doesn't have a very, like, safe way of being able to counter the zoning. Like, usually against zoners, you can check them with that, and you can dash in, you know, start making your way in. Deadshot, the problem with Deadshot is that he doesn't give you an opportunity to start your counter zoning unless the opponent makes a mistake. Which would include, like, using meter burn rifle unless meter burn rifle is going to kill, there's really no reason for a Deadshot player to use it against Red Hood, because that actually just gives him a free way to try and get in on you. So if you play Deadshot and you want to not let this character in, I wouldn't use meter burn rifle very often. Superman, his problem is that the trades are never in your favor. His air grab? Clearly, I don't think much of it, considering I completely forgot it existed. It's not really great in combos. You know, it's not very fast from what I remember. It's 11 frames. So if you want an air-to-air, he has jump 1. You don't need to do an air grab. It's a really weird design to have an air grab. Like, I get that it fits the character, but I don't know, his air grab does not feel very useful. Like, not even in combos. Like, he has higher damaging enders. So, and the hit advantage on it is, you know, it's 20 hit advantage, which is fine, but you get more off of this. Jump 3 does cross up in the corner. I talked about that earlier. How it's disgustingly ambiguous in the corner. Like, it's like, crap. It's like, oops. Like, that wasn't a cross up. That was a cross up. Do you have a jump in air grab OS? I actually have no clue. I haven't messed with that. It's actually a really good question. I mean, we can check that, like, right now. Lock mode random attack. Yeah, he does. Today you learned. Like, as you can see, my inputs. Ah, crap, that one didn't work. If you work at it hard enough, yeah, he does. So, today we learned he has that. Which is, it's pretty good. It guarantees that you will always be getting either pressure or get the free damage. So yeah, that's the one thing I can say about Vendetta Slam, is that you can OS it on jumping. So that's nice. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much all I have to say on the character right now. Yeah.